I woke to the sound of a heart monitor and the faint sting of antiseptic in my nostrils. There was a nurse hovering over me, saying something calm and soft. I couldn't catch it all, just fragments. Denver General, 9 days, internal bleeding stabilized. I blinked. My throat felt like I'd swallowed sandpaper. My shoulder burned like hell. I didn't remember the moment it happened. Just the flash of a collapsed beam during that warehouse fire and the sickening sense of falling backward through air. Then darkness. When I could finally sit up, they gave me my phone. It was day 5 in ICU. The screen was a mess of missed calls, texts, and emails. Most were from the guys at Station 14, a few from my sister in Kansas, and 3 from Lauren. None in the last few days. My name is Jacob Reynolds. I'm 42 years old. I work as a firefighter in Denver, Colorado. I've been married to Lauren for 7 years. I scrolled, more out of habit than curiosity, expecting the usual. Then the phone rang, a restricted number. I answered with a voice that didn't feel like mine. "Yeah, Mr. Reynolds," a male voice said. "This is Michael Brown with First Colorado Bank. Sorry to disturb you. But, well, we noticed some activity on your account that raised compliance concerns." I froze. What kind of activity? A sale was processed last week. Full payment received, involving your Estes Park property. Your wife handled everything. But because you're co-owner and your signature's on file, our department flagged some inconsistencies. I sat forward too fast. Pain shot up my side like a lightning bolt. "You're saying she sold the cabin?" "Yes, sir. Closed escrow 6 days ago. Wire transferred to an international account." My mouth was dry. "What account?" "To a private bank in the Cayman Islands, under Lauren Reynolds' name. Roughly $450,000 after closing costs." I didn't say anything. "Sir, I'm here," I croaked. "When were the papers signed?" "The documents are dated 2 weeks ago. The same week you were admitted to the ICU, according to hospital records." My pulse, already unsteady, thumped hard in my ears. She claimed power of attorney? Temporarily, yes. But we couldn't verify the legal paperwork. That's why I'm calling. We're obligated to notify you. I stared at the wall. The old clock. The tube in my arm. The sterile silence. "Thank you," I said finally. He gave a number to reach him directly and hung up. I stared at the phone for a full minute. Then I opened Lauren's last text. "They've sedated you again. I'm staying strong. I love you. Everything will be okay." It was sent 5 days ago. After the sale. After she took the money. She sat beside me in this hospital room and lied through her teeth while the ink was still drying on forged documents. I took a breath, deep and careful, and lowered the phone into my lap. There was no rage. Not yet. Just a strange, cold clarity, like fog lifting from a field before dawn. I buzzed the nurse. "Can I get a notepad?" I asked. She returned with a clipboard and pen. I wrote one name, Sarah Lynch. Sarah was my old friend from back in volunteer fire days before she went to law school. Now one of the sharpest real estate and estate lawyers in Colorado. We'd had coffee last fall. She told me over espresso. "If you ever need a shark, you call me, not the yellow pages." I underlined her name twice. Then I wrote, "Check cabin title. Pull escrow paperwork. Freeze assets if possible. Investigate wire transfer routing." I set the pen down and leaned back. The cabin wasn't just a house. It was where I'd proposed. Where Lauren and I spent our first anniversary. Where we drank whiskey on the porch under the first snow of every year. I'd chopped the damn firewood myself. I fixed the plumbing after that brutal freeze in 2016. Rewired the whole upstairs in 2018. We even named the trees around it like idiots. Big Bird was the pine next to the porch swing. I looked around the sterile hospital room. The hum of machines. The foredrip. Then I looked at the one framed photo Lauren had brought. It wasn't of the two of us. It was of just her, on the trail near Bear Lake. Smiling. Alone. A flicker of something hit me then. Not anger. Resolve. The day they moved me from ICU to a recovery ward, I asked for my laptop. Not to check email. Not to distract myself with videos or the news. I wanted access to my files, my home security app, my financial dashboards, the life Lauren didn't know I'd been monitoring quietly for over a year. The nurse looked skeptical. Most folks ask for soup or slippers. Just the laptop. I didn't need much. Just facts. The hospital Wi-Fi was garbage, but stable enough. I launched my Secure Vault app, the one Lauren thought I'd deleted when we merged our finances 3 years ago. She believed and shared everything. I believed in backups. Quiet once. I entered a 32-character password and waited. A familiar blue dashboard blinked to life. There it was. An encrypted folder marked Cabin Assets. Within minutes, I had access to the scanned deed for the Estes Park cabin, last year's property tax records, insurance documents with both our names, and most importantly, a title record showing no authorized sale initiated under my name within the last 60 days. She hadn't just lied. She'd forged it. That changed everything. I opened my text messages and typed one to Sarah Lynch. Need to talk. Urgent. Fraud suspected. I'm alive. Her response came within 5 minutes. You're not dead? Jesus. Give me 30 minutes. Zoom or call? Call. Voice is still trash. She called. Her voice, brisk and sharp as I remembered. Jacob, you sound like you got hit by a truck. Burning roof beam, actually. Christ. Okay. What's going on? I laid it out. The coma, the call from the bank, the wire to the Caymans, the forged signature. She asked 3 questions. Do you have original documents proving joint ownership? Yes. Do you have evidence of your condition during the time of sale? Hospital charts, ICU logs, coma reports. Yes. Do you want this quiet or loud? Start quiet. That won't last. She exhaled. Good. First step, I'll pull the transaction file from the county recorder. We'll check if the notary even exists. If Lauren forged one thing, she probably forged everything. And Jacob, yeah. Get ready. If she was bold enough to sell the cabin while you were unconscious, this wasn't her first move. It's just the first one you noticed. I ended the call. Let that sit. Then I opened my home security app. We'd installed exterior cameras at both the Denver house and the cabin 2 years ago. Lauren thought it was for bear deterrence. Really, I just liked knowing who was near what I owned. Footage from the cabin, 2 weeks ago. Clear timestamp. A black Audi Q5 in the driveway. Lauren, stepping out, followed by a man in a blue down jacket with his hands in his pockets. Tall. Familiar posture. They walked the perimeter. She pointed at the back deck. He took pictures. She unlocked the front door and let him inside. I paused the footage. The man's face turned toward the door cam for a second. It was Mark Sullivan. Mark, my old hiking buddy from back in the volunteer search and rescue days. I hadn't talked to him in over a year. Last I'd heard, he was investing in mountain properties, trying to escape city life. He looked relaxed. Innocent. He had no idea. He wasn't in on it. And Lauren knew that. She'd sold him the cabin because he was convenient, not complicit. I should have felt betrayed that Mark hadn't reached out after the sale. But I didn't. If he'd been told I was gone or incapacitated, what would he think? Lauren likely fed him whatever story suited her needs. I opened another window, logged into First Colorado Bank. Tried to access the joint account. Access denied. Password had been changed. Two-factor auth redirected to a number I didn't recognize. She'd locked me out. Smart. I clicked into my private investment tracker, the one tied to an LLC she didn't know existed. She hadn't touched those. That money was untouched, safe. My father's inheritance, the life insurance from a cousin I barely knew, all intact. Lauren had gone for the visible assets. The cabin, the shared accounts, the things she thought were unguarded. The amateur moves of someone who thinks charm can override legality. That evening, I buzzed the nurse. "Can I call a private transport service?" "You planning on checking yourself out, Mr. Reynolds?" "I'm done lying still. Your chart says you need another day of monitored observation." "I'll monitor myself." She sighed, then returned with the paperwork an hour later. By 9 p.m., I was wheeled out of Denver General in a black SUV van. No balloons, no hugs, just my bag, my laptop, and the slow fury that came from a deep betrayal. I didn't go home. I went straight to Sarah's office. It was dark outside, the kind of March cold that smells like ice and exhaust. She buzzed me into the lobby herself, hair tied back, glasses low on her nose, a gray hoodie over a blazer, a cup of cold coffee in one hand and an open file in the other. "You're pale as hell," she said. "Sit." "I'll stand." "You'll fall." I sat. She pushed the file toward me. "You were right. Notary ID used in the sale? Belongs to a guy who died in 2021. The stamp was scanned and reused. Your signature on the warranty deed doesn't match DMV records." Her affidavit claims she had power of attorney, but she filed no such document with the court. She leaned back. "It's a classic identity suppression scheme. Works best when the target stays dead, which you failed to do. Good job." I let out half a laugh. She handed me a page. "The buyer is Mark Sullivan. You know him?" "Yeah." He wouldn't have known. Lauren played him. I figured. The closing documents list you as unreachable due to catastrophic injury, which is convenient, since you were technically comatose. I rubbed my forehead. "So what now?" "We freeze everything. File a fraud claim with the county. Contact Mark, give him the heads up. Once he knows the sale was invalid, he'll want out. No one wants to get caught up in a forged title dispute, especially if they're a clean buyer. And Lauren, we start by catching her off guard. Serve notice. Let her make the next move." "What if she already made it?" Sarah narrowed her eyes. "Jacob, have you checked your home yet?" I hadn't. And suddenly, I wasn't sure I wanted to. I didn't go to our house alone. Sarah insisted on sending someone with me. A junior associate named Caleb, barely 30, who looked like he'd never swung a hammer in his life. But he had a law degree and a clipboard, and apparently that was what counted now. The house was dark when we arrived. The key still worked. I opened the door slowly, half expecting some cinematic betrayal waiting on the other side. But it wasn't drama that greeted me, just absence. Her boots were gone, the leather ones she always left by the door. So was the coat rack. Her coats, anyway. The espresso machine was unplugged and boxed up on the kitchen island. The photo wall in the hallway, wiped clean. No empty hooks, just a full repaint job. A fresh coat of taupe or something equally sanitized. There was no yelling. No note on the fridge. No fake apology scribbled on a napkin. She hadn't run. She'd prepared, like she'd rehearsed this exit. I walked slowly through the rooms, remembering the versions of her that lived in each corner. Lauren in the sunroom reading travel blogs about remote beaches. Lauren arguing over backsplash tiles. Lauren telling me she wanted to flip cabins full-time. Lauren dancing barefoot to Fleetwood Mac in pajama shorts. Gone. I reached the bedroom. The bed was stripped. My side had been left untouched, like a museum display. On the nightstand sat an envelope. No name, just sealed, propped up against my alarm clock. I opened it. One page. Typed. "Jacob, you'll probably be angry, and I get it. I didn't want to do it this way, but I couldn't wait anymore. You've been somewhere else for a long time. I tried to hold on, but I need to move forward. The cabin sale was just one part. I hope you can forgive me someday. L." I folded the letter once and slid it into my jacket pocket. I looked around the room. All the framed art, hers. Gone. The rug, hers. Packed. But the nightstand lamp? Still there. It was mine, a $30 hardware store thing with a cracked shade. The drawer held a phone charger, a coaster, and an unopened Father's Day card from last year. No kids. Inside, just a short line in her handwriting. Let's make this the year we rest more. I couldn't remember what I'd said in return. The next morning, back at Sarah's office, I gave her the letter and the footage of Lauren and Mark walking the cabin property. Sarah watched the video and said, she didn't just sell the cabin. She planned a complete removal. From me, I said quietly. Sarah tapped her pen against the desk. You said she'd been distant before the injury. What do you mean? I leaned back. It started subtle. Her weekends got longer. Girls' trips, real estate seminars. She started talking about personal alignment and emotional separation like she'd been coached by someone who podcasts in a yurt. Sarah raised an eyebrow. She into the wellness stuff now? She rebranded her entire realtor page 6 months ago. Added terms like energetic flow consulting and home detachment coaching. I didn't think much of it. I just figured it was entrepreneurial. Did she talk to you about selling the cabin? Once. Casually. She said it was dead money just sitting up there. I told her I'd die in that place before selling it. Sarah nodded slowly. So she decided to kill the conversation entirely. I gave a hollow laugh. I hadn't seen the truth back then, but the signs were loud in hindsight. Like how she stopped calling me by pet names. First it was fewer texts. Then no kiss before work. The kind of things you don't really clock when you're busy crawling into burning attics for strangers at 2 a.m. And then there was the password reset email. A month before the accident, I got an alert that someone tried to change the login to our property management portal. I asked her about it. She laughed it off. Probably just some phishing bot, babe. Her voice had that silk over steel tone. The one she used when she wanted to close a subject without discussion. I shrugged it off. I always did. Another time, I noticed a printed document in her briefcase, a trust agreement draft. I asked why she was looking into trusts. She said a client needed help moving assets ahead of a divorce. A messy one, she added. I remember joking. Let me know if I should be worried. She smiled without looking at me. If you ever need to worry, you'll know. Turns out I was already past the point of needing. She didn't just sell the cabin. She'd already moved her name off our utility accounts. Her sell plan was under her LLC now. She'd taken her name off our shared Costco membership. Every cut was small, precise, and together, they formed a surgical severing of identity. Sarah sat back. She didn't plan this in a week. No, I agreed. She's been moving pieces for at least a year. You think she's done this before? To someone else? No, she's not that type. But she got a taste of freedom. The new clients, the success, the attention. I think she started seeing me as dead weight. You were carrying a hose up a staircase when the floor gave out. Exactly. And somewhere between my last breath before blacking out and the hospital's third bag of plasma, she decided it was time to cash out. I got up and walked to the window. The Denver skyline looked like it always did, like opportunity and exhaustion dressed up in glass. Do you know what's worse than betrayal? I asked. What? Realizing the person who betrayed you didn't even feel conflicted about it. Sarah didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The next morning, Sarah and I walked into the downtown branch of First Colorado Bank. Glass walls, dark carpet, fake smiles. A sign near the front desk said security cameras in use. For your protection, but I doubted they protected anyone like me. Michael Brown met us in a private conference room. Mid-40s, thin tie, bald at the crown. He looked like someone who knew how to disappear behind systems. Mr. Reynolds, he said, shaking my hand. Glad you're on your feet. I nodded. He turned to Sarah. We pulled everything. Copies of the wire instructions, the notarized warranty deed, and the affidavit Lauren Reynolds submitted. "Let's see it," she said. He spread the documents on the table. The wire transfer was dated exactly 6 days into my coma. The receiving bank was a private institution in Georgetown, Grand Cayman. Beneficiary name, L. Reynolds Trust, account ending in 7708. Sarah held up the deed. "This notary's stamp is registered to a deceased agent in Weld County. We caught that during internal review," Brown said, "which is why we flagged it and attempted to freeze the wire, but unfortunately." He slid over a paper. "The funds were moved again within hours, broken into 4 subtransfers, now in separate shells. Layering," Sarah muttered. "Someone got coached." "Or Googled," I added. Brown hesitated. "There's more. We traced the IP address used to initiate the transfer. It pinged from a co-working space in Boulder. Security footage matches Mrs. Reynolds entering with a laptop bag, timestamped 10 minutes before submission." "So she didn't even bother using a VPN?" I said. "She thought you'd never wake up," Sarah said flatly. Brown looked down. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds." "Don't be," I said. "Just help us unwind it." He nodded. "We've referred the case to our internal fraud division. You'll be contacted." On the way out, Sarah pulled out her phone. "Now we call Mark." I raised an eyebrow. "You're sure?" "He's in the middle. If we treat him like a threat, he'll shut down. If we treat him like a victim, he might help." We called. I didn't expect him to answer. He did. His voice was hesitant. "Jacob." "Hey, Mark. We need to talk." 10 minutes later, we met in the parking lot of a REI on Colfax. Seemed neutral enough. He approached slowly, holding a paper coffee cup like it was a shield. "I didn't know," he said before I could speak. "I swear, Jake. Lauren told me you were in long-term care. She said she had the documents. I didn't even see your name on half of them." I nodded. "You're not under fire, Mark. But we need your help." Sarah stepped in. "We've initiated fraud proceedings. If you file a formal challenge to the title, based on forged documentation, we can stop the transfer of deed registration. You'll get your money back. But we need your cooperation." He exhaled hard. Jesus Christ. I should have known. She was pushy as hell, wanted everything closed in 2 weeks. "Do you still have the inspection photos?" I asked. He blinked. "Yeah. On my phone." "What?" "Send them to me." A minute later, my phone buzzed. There they were, shots of the cabin porch, the split log siding, the fire pit I built by hand. And in the background of one, my blue axe. The one Lauren always said was too ugly to display. Still hanging on the porch hook. "Thanks," I said. That evening, Sarah filed the initial fraud package with the county clerk's office. We also submitted an emergency injunction to block the recording of any further property transfers involving the cabin. Mark signed a buyer's affidavit, declaring he was misled. That helped. By morning, the title transfer was legally frozen. Not reversed, not yet, but locked. Then TSA flagged a boarding pass at DI. A woman using a passport under the name Laura Kingston tried to check in for a flight to Miami. Destination, onward to Nassau. They called the county. The county called Sarah. Sarah called me. "I think your wife just tried to vanish." I was at the cabin. Alone. The lock hadn't changed yet. Mark never moved in. The place smelled like cedar and ghosts. The porch creaked under my boots. I sat in the swing and let the mountain air settle into my lungs like truth. The place wasn't lost. Not yet. Neither was I. The news came in pieces. Sarah texted first. She's in custody. Attempted identity fraud plus outstanding warrant. DI security flagged her passport as suspicious. Then Brown from the bank called. FBI's involved now. Cayman accounts are under review. We've frozen everything we can access. Your original assets are protected. And then, silence. A kind I hadn't felt in months. 2 days later, I sat across from Sarah in her office as she reviewed the final agreements. "She's cooperating," she said, flipping a document. "Agreed to a no-contest settlement." "What does that mean for me?" "You keep everything. Full restitution of cabin ownership. Reversal of the wire transfer, or what's left of it once the international assets are processed. She forfeits all claims on marital property. No pension rights. No spousal support. And criminal, she signed a confession. Plea deal in exchange for probation. 5 years, supervised. She won't serve time unless she violates terms." I nodded slowly. "Miami?" I asked. Sarah nodded. She was heading to a rented apartment under her new name. We found the lease agreement. Everything was arranged: passport, tickets, cash withdrawals in batches under reporting limits. She slid over a document. "You'll want to sign here. This finalizes the reinstatement of cabin title in your name." I signed without hesitation. The story went quiet after that. No press. No courtroom showdown. Just a few notarized forms and a county judge stamping a signature with more force than necessary. Mark got his full refund and sent me a short note. "Didn't know. Still feel like an idiot. If you ever want to hike again, I owe you beer and distance." I didn't reply. Not yet. A week later, I returned to the cabin for good. It was March still, but the snow had started pulling back from the trees, and the wind coming off the ridge carried the smell of thawing pine and wet bark. The porch was dusty. The axe still hung on the hook. The fire pit had collapsed a little. I rebuilt it. The living room still had the couch I'd hauled up in 2015 by strapping it to the roof of my pickup like an idiot. The shelf where Lauren kept her Zen rocks was empty. I filled it with wood carvings from a local store in Estes. I didn't frame new photos. I didn't burn the old ones, either. They stayed in a box in the closet, next to a toolbox, a flannel blanket, and a faded Broncos hoodie. Lauren sent one letter. Handwritten. Postmarked from a Denver P.O. box. I didn't know how to undo it. I kept going because I thought you'd never wake up. And when you did, I panicked. I never meant to take everything. I just didn't know how to stop. There was no apology, just a timeline. And an excuse. I read it once, then slid it into the back of a drawer and left it there. 3 months passed. I split firewood, cooked eggs, replaced a broken step on the porch, took the dog from the station, the one I used to walk during night shifts, and named him Moose. Every week or two, I'd drive into town. Groceries, hardware, mail. People started to recognize me again. Not as that guy from the fire or the one whose wife ran off, but just Jacob. One Saturday morning, I got a letter from the Department of Justice. "Your cooperation helped establish a pattern of real estate-related fraud involving foreign wire activity. We appreciate your persistence. Your case has been used in training for financial crime investigation units." I laughed reading that. I never planned on being a cautionary tale or a case study. I just wanted my life back. In July, Mark came by. No warning. Just a knock on the cabin door. He held 2 six-packs and looked sheepish. I drove past the turnoff and figured hell. Worth trying. I opened the door wider. He didn't say sorry again. I didn't ask him to. We drank beer on the porch. Talked about the old days. Not once did Lauren's name come up. That night, as I shut the cabin windows against a cooler breeze, I realized I hadn't thought of her in a week. Not with pain, not with anger, just hadn't thought of her. That's when I knew I'd won. Not because I'd reclaimed what was mine, not because the law had sided with me, but because the space she once filled was now quiet, and the silence didn't hurt anymore.
Thanks for listening. Enjoyed the story? A like, a share, or even a comment helps us keep going.